I was born in the Netherlands, and when I was 9, my mum sent me to Chinese school on Saturdays, which I felt pretty annoyed about. My friends would ask me why I had to go to stupid Chinese school. Why couldn't I just hang out with them and have fun like a normal kid? When my family migrated from China to the Netherlands, they worked hard to assimilate, like many migrants in the 70s and 80s. This often meant that they had to hide or deny parts of their own culture to be considered good Dutch citizens. It was as if their livelihoods were at stake if they didn't. And so when I was born, they taught me to speak Dutch fluently and do well in school. In response to this pressure, I came to believe that Chinese culture wasn't worthy of exploring nor embracing. In fact, I felt ashamed to be Chinese. I just wanted to fit in, be accepted, and not be othered. Years later, I became aware that this questioning by my friends led me to internalize the belief that something was wrong with me. This first memory of me experiencing microaggressions ticked all the boxes of me developing internalized racial oppression. Through me, 1, questioning my identity. 2, believing that I was inferior. 3, having anxiety, self-doubt, and even self-disgust as a result of constant negative stereotypes. And 4, believing that the attributes of the dominant group, white people, were more acceptable than any other. At the same time, I also became aware that my friends were internally conditioned to question what wasn't the norm. Through their lived experience in a white dominant world, they had subconsciously come to accept that it was not as good to have a different skin color in a country where people were supposed to be and look a certain way, white. Whilst the origin of appearance and beauty standards across Asian countries varies, what is certain is that lookism has compelled many Asian women, and in fact, many other women and people of color, to spend money, time, and energy on things such as skin lightening and whitening products and procedures to create larger and rounder eyes, all to change the way they look to fit in. This is despite the World Health Organization's concern for the dangerous levels of mercury content in skin whitening products. Talk about cost on multiple levels. Even though America, Australia, and the Netherlands have over 60.5 million migrants and multi-generations of culturally diverse communities, we are shown numerous of examples of us as a society not being entirely willing to accept people of color as being American, Australian, or Dutch. Why? Because people of color don't fit the dominant perception of what it is to be American, Australian, or Dutch, which is to be white. In high school, my fellow Dutch-born Asian friends and I called ourselves bananas, not to describe ourselves as extremely silly, but to acknowledge that we were yellow on the outside and white on the inside. But while we were proudly Dutch by nationality, mannerisms, and how we lived our lives, we were still not considered proper Dutch because our skin wasn't white. Korean-American Olympian snowboarder Chloe Kim, who was interviewed by the media about her identity, also experienced the same thing when she self-identified as a banana or a Twinkie. Despite her being born in California and therefore by definition American, she was still deemed by the media a forever foreigner. Whilst Chloe Kim, myself, and many others may find a sense of identity in calling ourselves banana or fresh off the boat or ABC, Australian-born Chinese, it is this active labeling that feeds the beast of systemic oppression and internalized racial oppression, forcing us to reject our own culture and keeping us oblivious to parts of ourselves we hide to fit in. We are not truly allowed to see who we really are beyond the color of our skin. This raises the question that so many people of color and migrants in Western countries constantly get asked. Where are you from? Or where are you really from? If you have ever asked this of someone, beyond your good intentions and interest, what bias may you have already confirmed in your mind when you ask this? And by the way, do you ever ask your white friends where they're from or where they're really from? When I first came to Australia, I met a Chinese Australian man who told me that I couldn't possibly be Dutch because I didn't look it. Do you see the irony? The problem with the systemic upholding of white supremacy is that it is often so subtle that people of color, and in fact, we all can fall into the trap of contributing to it. Something that has become obvious through my work as a mindset coach and unpacking the fundamental qualities of who we are and how we live has allowed me to truly see the cost of fitting in. Social constructs have created a world that does not fully see us as the unique human beings we are and make it very hard to see beyond the Chinese, Asian, and Dutch identities like mine, or other people of color, First Nations people, or anyone with intersecting identities. I have come to see that the weight of fitting into a white dominant world where we are expected to fit the mold bypasses the truth of who we are and the richness and value that we have to offer. It's not quite the representation of Harmony Day we pride ourselves in promoting at work, right? Nor is it reflective of the inclusive and brave leadership we may believe ourselves to have. All of this adds up to an enormous toll on the mental health of people of color, with a study by the American Sociological Association finding everyday discrimination being associated with us experiencing increased chronic stress and depressive and anxiety disorders globally. World Health Organization research has found gambling addictions are being disproportionately experienced by marginalized people. And according to the Australian Psychological Society, people of culturally and linguistically diverse communities are more likely to experience psychological distress in comparison to other Australians due to traumatic events such as war, family separation, and the migration process, resulting in increased rates of self-harm and suicide. This is a heartbreaking and unacceptable reality, and trying to fit in is not helping at all. Of the 4.4 million Asians in Australia, only half speak the language of their ancestry as a taxing result of assimilation and integration, which has caused a ripple effect of disconnection within ourselves and families going back generations. With over half of the Australian population having ancestry in over 270 global countries, we have a richness of diversity that is unique throughout the world. And yet, the dominant view of being Australian is to be predominantly white-looking, know when the first fleet landed, know what a snag, two-up, or a Yui is, and of course, speak English. Even if this is an oversimplification, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with those things, may we be selling ourselves short on what Australian culture is or could be. Trying to fit in is costing us all understanding, meaning, and a richness of true diversity we could be experiencing. Not to mention the opportunity to see the inherent value in all of us and our differences exactly as we are, all to create a supposed belonging where so many people, in fact, do not even feel seen, let alone belong. Beyond labels and social constructs, and with self-agency and freedom of choice, it is so tempting to fall into the trap of believing that racial inequity doesn't affect us all. But this isn't about who is right or wrong at an individual level. And it is beyond time we understood racism and white supremacy as being societal constructs that divide us all. This is the reality we live in today, where so many of us are impacted by systems of oppression so deeply, not just in differences of race, but also gender, sexuality, ableism, neurodiversity, and more, creating inequality in how so many people are treated and forced to fit in. However, as Maya Angelou said, the truth is no one of us can be free until everybody is free. My work encourages people to discover who they really are with joy and purpose, because I truly believe that if we give ourselves and each other permission to embrace all parts of ourselves, we can expand the richness of our world to be one where we will all benefit, no matter where we were born, our identities, or cultural background. And so you have some decisions to make, which can be for the benefit of us all. Where can you create space and opportunities for yourself and others to explore openly and with joy their heritage and culture? And for you to see that as being essential for all of us to preserve and expand the richness and diversity of individual cultures through things such as language, cultural values, traditions, music, art, and food. My daughter will be 9 years old in 2030. My daughter will be 9 years old in 2030. As a parent, it is my hope by then that she and her friends will be learning different languages to connect with their heritage, and that they do so with joy. As children, embracing their uniqueness and differences, living in a Western country, that she doesn't have to question whether she is Chinese or Australian or Dutch or Hong Kong Chinese, but that she can own all parts of herself without guilt, shame, or fear. You now have the choice to contribute to this happening for her and for other children of color and for all children for generations to come by examining what it means to force people to fit into a binary world, a world which we can all liberate ourselves from through the awareness, openness, acceptance, and embracing of our unique differences beyond skin color, culture, and lived experience. A world beyond the binary of fitting in. I'm here for it, and I hope you are too.